They say he spoke in dreams, but what he saw was no dream, it was the future of us all. Edgar Cayce, the man who slept to see the invisible, left a warning that now echoes like thunder. There will be a time when gold will walk like a man, and the world will follow it to the brink of fire. For decades, these words have been treated as a metaphor. But now, as 2026 approaches, the planet is beginning to pulse to the exact rhythm Cayce described. He spoke of a cycle of power, a silent judgment, and a figure that would emerge from the ruins of the system dividing the world in two. And he warned, when this starts, it will be too late to hide. There's something in the air, a feeling that transcends borders, ideologies, and religions. The collective magnetism is shifting, and the veils between dimensions are becoming translucent. Those who feel it know we are entering a time of revelations. Cayce called this moment the Great Test of Souls, a period in which leaders would mirror the spiritual state of humanity. And when he described the man with the flaming voice, dressed in shades of gold, who will stir passions and discord like winds of judgment, few imagined that a century later this image would become so literal. He wasn't talking about a politician. He was talking about a vibrational force, an ancient energy clothed in flesh and speech, summoned by the collective frequency of the planet. The name that resonates in every corner today, Donald Trump, is merely the visible face of this force. Loved and hated, he fulfills the role of the archetype Cayce foresaw, the catalyst of the global mirror. His rise, fall, and return are more than political events. They are symbols of the clash between two spiritual lineages, the humanity of matter and the humanity of light. When Cayce wrote that gold will become a sign of separation, he was speaking of the energy of the ego, of ostentation, of earthly power. And yet he said that this same gold would be necessary to reveal who is still asleep and who is awakening. Because gold, when burned by divine fire, reveals the true brilliance of the soul. The sleeping prophet saw the future as a silent war, not of armies, but of vibrations. He said that nations would be led by men who would represent the hidden archetypes of the collective unconscious, the conqueror, the savior, the destroyer, and the mirror. And in the cycle of fire, this mirror would appear to reflect humanity's madness back to itself. The world would hate it for what it doesn't want to see within itself. That's why Cayce never called him a villain, but a sign. Because every sign comes before awakening. He is the alarm that humanity tries to silence, but which sounds louder and louder again. We are at that point now. The vibrational time clock marks its final turns before purification. The forces of the earth are restless. People feel an inexplicable calling, as if something within them knows a portal has been opened. November is the month when the veil is torn, and prophecy begins to manifest. Cayce said that judgment will not come with destruction, but with revelation. And that is what is happening. The masks fall, intentions are revealed, and each soul is placed before its own reflection. The gold is being melted, and the golden man, whom the world loves to hate, is only the harbinger of something much greater, the beginning of humanity's vibrational awakening. The sleeping prophet spoke of a time when the earth's vibration would become unbearable for those living in dissonance with it, an energetic saturation point where the invisible would become palpable and the masks of the world would fall one by one. This time, he said, would come after a long era of confusion, when humanity believed that power still resided on the political stage, without realizing that the true battle had always been fought within the collective mind. This is the vibrational judgment, the instant when the Earth's mental field folds back on itself and demands a choice of frequency. Ancient traditions called this process the separation of the two lineages, not of blood but of consciousness. The lineage of matter, which vibrates with fear, control, and survival, and the lineage of light, which vibrates with faith, surrender, and unity. Both coexisted for millennia, but now the time of coexistence is coming to an end. With every thought, with every emotion, human beings choose which path to follow. And while most still seek answers in headlines and on screens, awakened souls realize that the true battlefield is vibrational, invisible, but profoundly real. In 2026, this separation will become undeniable. The entire planet will vibrate at a tone that some will feel as liberation and others as collapse. It is the same wave, just perceived in different ways. Cayce said that the forces of the earth will respond to human consciousness. When the collective mind purifies itself, the planet aligns. When it becomes contaminated, the planet convulses. Earthquakes, storms, collapses, and rebirths are not punishments. They are echoes. They are the cry of Mother Earth readjusting the tone of her heart to the tone of the Creator. And in this realignment, all that is false will be burned in the golden flame of truth. Ancient civilizations knew this time would come. They spoke of cosmic cycles that do not end in destruction, but in purification. It is the great energetic reset of Earth. The veil between worlds thins, dreams become messages, and ancient souls begin to remember who they truly are. The judgment is not a court, it is a resonance. Each soul judges itself by vibrating. Each thought becomes a decree, and in this new vibrational field, what is heavy sinks, what is light ascends. This is the true meaning of the apocalypse, the unveiling of what has always been here. And when Cayce saw this time, he smiled sadly. He said that humanity would need to confront its darkest reflection to be free, that gold, the symbol of the ego, would need to melt to release the inner light. That is what we are experiencing. The fire of revelation has begun, and there is no way to extinguish it. It consumes the lie, but illuminates the essence. The souls that resist will feel pain. Those that surrender will see the invisible manifest before their eyes. From the beginning of time, Earth has been a testing ground for two streams of consciousness. Cayce called them children of matter and children of light. One lineage builds, conquers, accumulates, and fears loss. The other flows, creates, serves, and remembers. Both are necessary, for one without the other would not learn the value of balance. But the prophet said that the moment would come when these two vibrations could no longer coexist on the same plane. Earth, in its ascension process, would become incompatible with fear. And that moment is now. The children of matter are those who still believe that power comes from outside, that security can be bought, that destiny can be manipulated, that the other is the enemy. They are the ones who build empires of iron and ego, and who tremble when the wind of truth blows. The children of light, on the other hand, walk in silence, unnoticed, but sustain the vibrational field of the planet. They are the ones who heal in secret, pray in silence, and feel the calling before words can explain it. They do not belong to religions, they belong to the vibration of the spirit. Cayce said that this invisible minority is what keeps the earth standing. In 2026, the two lineages will face each other, not in war, but in contrast. The brilliance of matter will become opaque before the inner light. Systems that seemed unshakable will begin to crumble. The economy, politics, social structures, everything will be tested by the vibration of reality. And when matter bends to the light, the new world will begin to emerge. It will be a painful birth because the old does not yield without resistance. But the truth cannot be postponed forever. The planet has already chosen. It vibrates for life, not for illusion. Many will feel confused. Many will cling to old power, believing it to be protection. But protection now lies in the invisible, in silence, in the heart aligned with the cosmic flow. Cayce said, "The world will not end, but the world as we know it will not survive." And that is the difference between destruction and transformation. The fire of judgment does not burn to punish, it burns to purify. And those who understand this will not fear chaos, for they will know that it is merely the birth of the new earth. There is a truth that the ancients kept secret. The human being is the portal itself. The separation is not between heaven and earth, but between the real self and the illusory self. When the veil falls, and it will fall, many will see that there were never enemies, only reflections. The two lineages in essence are one, but they need to divide in order to remember again. And the judgment is nothing more than humanity's reunion with its divine origin. The prophet described this time as the golden fire cycle, a period in which spiritual and earthly power would clash in all spheres of existence. He said the fire would come in waves. First, the fire of the word, then the fire of chaos, and finally, the fire of consciousness. The first has already begun. We see the world burning in speeches, accusations, and divisions. The second is already emerging, global crises, revolts, and disorder. But the third is yet to come, and it will be the most powerful of all, the fire that awakens the human spirit. This fire is not destructive, it is revelatory. It burns away the false to release the essential. And according to Cayce, when the golden fire touches humanity, the truth hidden for ages will be exposed. Religious, political, and economic structures will not withstand the vibration of transparency. Everything built on deception will dissolve. That is why so many are afraid the fire cannot be controlled. It is the divine force purifying creation, and every human being will be touched by it, according to their frequency. The cycle of fire is also the cycle of choice. Humanity will have to decide what it wishes to carry forward. It is not about possessions or borders, but about energy. Old beliefs will be questioned, idols will fall, and what remains will be the pure sound of the heart vibrating with the cosmos. It is in this sound that the new world will be built. Cayce said that, after the purification, will come the time of those who remember, those who know they have been here before in other cycles, and who return now to anchor the new vibration of the earth. As chaos intensifies, the bearers of the inner flame rise, not in palaces or pulpits but in the simplest places. They are ordinary people who become beacons, sustaining the field of love when everything seems to crumble. They are the true leaders of the new age. They don't command with their voices, but with their actions, and their power grows silently, as the old power cries out not to disappear. The golden fire recognizes them. It envelops them, protects them, and expands them. When fire and gold unite, the earth will be different. The old cycle will end silently, like the end of a dream, and a new dawn will emerge, clearer, more vibrant, more real. The prophet called this moment the second birth of the earth. He said that few would understand, but all would feel it, because the vibration of truth is impossible to ignore. It transcends flesh, mind, and time, and it is coming, slowly and suddenly. There is a strange silence hanging over the planet. It is not an ordinary silence. It is the interval between two worlds. Cayce said that before the final purification, the sky would seem to breathe. And today, as the winds change direction, as the poles of time realign, this cosmic breath becomes perceptible even to those who do not believe. The entire planet is reorganizing itself into higher vibrations, and portals have begun to open. Not physical portals, but rifts of consciousness, gaps of light between what we are and what we can still be. Many call it coincidence, others awakening. But those who feel it know there is something different in the air. These portals don't appear in the heavens, they appear within us. They are moments of perception, flashes of lucidity that traverse daily life and remind us that we are more than bodies and names. Cayce said that the kingdom of heaven opens in the heart of the awakened man. When he spoke of this, he wasn't using empty metaphors. He was describing a real shift in internal frequency. That's why so many people feel that time seems distorted, that the hours no longer follow the same rhythm. It's the Earth's vibrational field changing, and humankind, by instinct, trying to keep up with this new pulse. The prophet saw this process as a reprogramming of humanity's spiritual memory. Each portal that opens is a memory that returns, memories of past lives, of unfulfilled commitments, of promises made to the stars. Cayce said that modern man would forget who he is, but that at the right time the earth itself would remind him. That is what is happening now. The storms, the signs in the sky, the changes in nature. None of this is random. Everything is symbolic language from the planet trying to awaken its children. The global awakening did not begin with miracles, but with unrest. Some resist and feel fear, others surrender and feel peace. Fear and peace are the same energy, seen from different frequencies. Fear is the misunderstood awakening, and Cayce warned, in the time of transition many will feel lost, because the old world will no longer sustain them. What once provided security now dissolves. What once seemed firm is now sand, and it is precisely in this void that the portals manifest. When control falls, the infinite enters. The secret is not to run from uncertainty, because it is in uncertainty that the new reveals itself. The portals are not ways to escape the world, but to inhabit it in a different way. They are windows to reality opening amidst the chaos. Each awakened soul becomes a living portal, a bridge between dimensions. And when thousands of these human portals light up simultaneously, the entire planet changes tone. That is why chaos grows. The light is pushing the darkness out. And as Cayce said in his last vision, the earth will be reborn from fire, but the fire will be made of consciousness. We are seeing the beginning of this fire, and it does not come to destroy, but to reveal. In every generation there are those who carry the memory of what came before. ancient souls who return whenever the world approaches a spiritual crossroads. Cayce said that these souls would come from everywhere, from the east and the west, from the north and the south, from cities and deserts, and when they began to recognize each other, the planet would change. This is the time. Those who feel the inner calling, even without understanding where it comes from, are part of this transitional generation. They are the seeds of a new consciousness that is trying to bloom in the midst of the storm. These souls didn't come to save the world. They came to remind it. Each one carries a spark of ancient wisdom, and when they meet, the Earth's vibrational field rises. It's no coincidence that so many people are awakening at the same time, feeling that something bigger is about to happen. It's the echo of the ancient schools of the spirit, pulsing again in the collective memory. Cayce said that spirit speaks through coincidence, and the coincidences are now screaming. The encounters, the synchronicities, the signs, everything seems to have a hidden meaning. Because it does. Life is trying to call us back to center. The call, however, is not gentle. It comes through discomfort, loss, inner chaos. Many are being shaken off old paths. It is the spirit forcing transformation. Cayce warned that prepared souls will endure the confusion because they have known it before. That is why so many awakened souls feel a constant déjà vu, as if they had already lived through this time. And they did. They are consciousnesses that witnessed ancient falls of civilizations and that now return to ensure that the next transition is different. There is no chance. Each soul is exactly where it should be. Ancient forces try to prevent awakening. They manifest as fear, as doubt, as the impulse to give up. But the greater the resistance, the stronger the call. The new vibration doesn't demand perfection. It demands presence. What keeps the soul flowing is the courage to remain conscious amidst the chaos. This is what differentiates those who sleep from those who remember. Those who remember don't flee from the fire. They walk through it knowing that on the other side there is light. Cayce said that fear is the shadow of the miracle about to be born. We are surrounded by miracles disguised as challenges. And then, the moment arrives when the soul understands. The call is not to wait for a savior, but to be the answer itself. The planet needs conscious beings, not heroes. The new time will not come from above. It will come from within. Each awakened heart is a rising sun in the middle of the night. When many of these suns ignite, the darkness will have nowhere left to hide, and at that instant, judgment will cease to be fear and will become revelation. The cycle will be complete. The ancient souls will have fulfilled their promise. What Cayce called the time of readjustment is not the end. It is purification. It is the moment when human structures collapse because they can no longer sustain the planet's new frequency. What seemed solid begins to dissolve, not as punishment, but because the invisible needs space to be born. Power systems, economies, certainties, everything begins to tremble under the weight of a vibration that demands truth. And no matter how much people try to maintain control, the cycle can no longer be interrupted. The old world is exhaling its last breath. This dissolution is painful because it touches upon what humanity fears most, losing security. Cayce said that man only turns to the spirit when matter disappoints him, and that is exactly what is happening. Humanity has placed too much trust in what is made of stone, iron, and gold, forgetting what is made of light, silence, and faith. Now, everything built on pride and illusion is crumbling. What was power becomes fear, and what was fear becomes opportunity. Each ruin is a mirror, and in each mirror there is an invitation to begin again. But even amidst the chaos there is a sacred pattern. Collapse is not random, it is harmonious, like a symphony of destruction and rebirth. Ancient civilizations have experienced this. Atlantis, Egypt, Lemuria, all reached the point where the human ego wanted to be greater than the spirit, and when that happens, the cycle ends. Cayce said that the waters will come again, not to drown bodies, but to purify hearts. It is the vibrational cleansing of a humanity that needs to remember why it came to Earth. Pain is merely the price of forgetting, transforming into remembrance. As the old world crumbles, the seeds of the new stir silently. People begin to unite through intuition, not self-interest. New ways of living, healing, and sharing are born from simplicity. It's as if the spirit is rebuilding civilization from the inside out. Cayce called this the invisible foundation. He said that the righteous will walk among the ruins and from them will emerge a new light. These righteous ones are not saints. They are awakened, ordinary people who choose not to be contaminated by fear. They are the first builders of the vibrational earth, and while chaos tries to scream louder, the spirit speaks more softly. The old world will crumble, but not in a single day. It will be a continuous dismantling, slow, deep, necessary, until humanity realizes that it is not about losing the world, but about being reborn within it. When the last pillar of illusion falls, the light will enter without hindrance, and at that moment, everyone will know that nothing was in vain. The collapse is merely the Creator's breath extinguishing the shadows to rekindle the sun. There is a murmur in the heart of the earth, a sound few hear, but one that is growing louder. It is the sound of a new sun rising within human consciousness. Cayce called it the dawn of the spirit. He said that after the fire and chaos would come the luminous silence, when humanity would rediscover its divine nature. This new sun will not rise in the sky, but within each awakened being. It is the glow of remembrance. I have always been part of the light. When this remembrance spreads, the whole world will change without a word needing to be spoken. This collective awakening begins discreetly. Ordinary people feel compassion where there was once indifference. Hearts open for no reason. Intuition becomes stronger than logic. These are small, everyday miracles, signs that the field of consciousness is expanding. Cayce said that the kingdom will come not with thunder but with tears of recognition. The new sun does not destroy, it reveals. It illuminates what was hidden, heals what was wounded, reconciles what was separated. Humanity, for the first time in millennia, is beginning to remember what it means to be one. However, the birth of light always disturbs the shadows. The old system will try to resist. There will be confusion, distorted information, collective fear. But all of this is part of the process, the last gasps of the old energy trying to survive. Cayce said that the darkness screams loudest when it knows that dawn has arrived. And indeed, the more the inner sun grows, the more visible the shadow becomes. This is how consciousness evolves, through the revelation of what was hidden. It is not about destroying the past, but about transforming it into wisdom. The new world will not be made of governments or religions, but of frequency. Those who vibrate in truth will recognize each other, regardless of race, language, or belief. They will form an invisible network that will sustain the planet during the birth of the new cycle. This network already exists. It is growing silently, guided by awakened hearts. Cayce said that the brotherhood of light will arise when man understands that there are no boundaries in the spirit, and that moment is near. Each individual awakening is a spark that fuels the collective sun, and when the new sun shines fully, the earth will be unrecognizable, not because of catastrophes, but because of awareness. What was once survival will become presence. What was once a search will become an encounter. Humanity will finally understand that paradise was never a place. It was always a state of vibration. The sleeping prophet saw this time and smiled, because he knew that, in the end, love would win. And now, at this instant, love begins to awaken, silently, but with the force of 1,000 dawns. The time that Cayce described as the vibrational choice has arrived. The entire planet pulsates on a note that forces every soul to take a stand. It is not a choice of words, nor of ideologies. It is a silent choice, made in vibration. Those who vibrate in fear feel the world crumble. Those who vibrate in love feel the same world reborn. It is the same event, seen from different frequencies. Cayce said that the judgment would not be made by angels with swords, but by the very energy of the human being, reflected back upon itself. Vibration has become a mirror, and the mirror does not lie. At this point in the cycle, realities begin to divide. It's not a physical division, but one of perception. Some will remain trapped in the density of the old, seeing only chaos and disorder. Others will begin to see patterns of light in the shadows, invisible connections, signs of the new field of consciousness forming. This is the true separation, not between peoples, but between perceptions. Cayce called this the veil of dual vibration, and he said that few would perceive the exact moment of the transition, because it would happen within the heart and not in the news. The planet feels it. There are places where time seems different, where the air is lighter, where the presence of the spirit is almost palpable. These are regions where the vibrational field of the new earth is already anchored. People who live in these places begin to dream the same images, feel the same emotions as if sharing an ancient memory. It is the birth of the awakened collective consciousness, what Cayce called the network of light. It needs no wires or borders. It is made of attunement. Where there is love, there is connection. Where there is fear, there is noise. And in this vibrational intersection, free will manifests in its purest form. Each being decides at every instant which reality to nourish. The earth is becoming transparent to the soul. Nothing can be hidden anymore. Emotions, intentions, desires, everything vibrates and manifests rapidly. That is why time seems to accelerate. What once took years to reveal now shows itself in days, sometimes in hours. Cayce said that, when spirit is the new time, the past and the future will fold over one another. This is what we are experiencing. Time is dissolving to give way to presence, and when this separation is complete, there will be no winners or losers, only frequencies. Ready souls will move to the new vibration without needing to leave their bodies. They will simply change their frequency. Those who still resist will remain in density until they learn to trust the light again. It is a compassionate process, not a punitive one. Cayce called this the harvest of vibrations, and he said the key would be simple, almost childlike. Love and you will remain in the land of light. Now we understand what he meant. The new earth has already begun, within those who remember. When humanity's vibrational field reaches a point of harmony, something extraordinary happens. The planet awakens along with it. Cayce said that the earth is a living being and feels the thoughts of men. Today it vibrates more strongly because we are beginning to think with our hearts. This is true ascension, not an escape to the heavens, but the return of consciousness to its divine origin, while still walking among the stones and the clouds. Ascension is a remembering, and when humankind remembers who it is, the entire universe realigns. What is being born is not a new religion, but a new sensibility. People are beginning to feel the invisible in a natural way. Dreams become guidance. Intuitions replace certainties, and the spirit manifests itself through simple gestures. A look, a word, an encounter. Cayce said that the spirit will speak in small things. That is what is happening. Spirituality ceases to be a search and becomes breath. The divine ceases to be distant and becomes everyday. It is as if heaven has descended to earth, not as a spectacle, but as a presence. And the more this presence grows, the more humanity reorganizes itself. Fear loses its meaning. Competition dissolves. Time slows down. People begin to value silence, nature, a sincere gaze. Everything that was once banal regains its soul. Cayce said that the new civilization will be born from the compassionate heart, not from the conquering mind. And we can already see the first signs of this. New ways of living and sharing are emerging. Spiritual communities, invisible bonds, people helping each other without knowing why. It is the vibration of unity awakening in the streets of the world. At this point in the cycle, the fire of judgment transforms into healing light. The ancient souls, who endured chaos and fear, now begin to feel peace. Pain turns into wisdom, and suffering gains purpose. It is as if the entire planet has exhaled and at last breathes in harmony. Cayce said that when man and earth breathe together, the kingdom will come, and that breath begins now. It is not audible, but it is felt, in the heart, in dreams, in the encounters that destiny orchestrates. And when the new sun rises on the horizon of consciousness, humanity will understand that there was never separation, that heaven and earth have always been one body, vibrating in love, that the judgment was merely a mirror, and that the fire we so feared was, in truth, the light we asked for. The sleeping prophet smiles, for he knows that his vision has been fulfilled, not as destruction but as remembrance. Ascension is not the end, it is the beginning of true existence. The new time has begun, and it begins now, in every conscious breath. There comes a moment when heaven and earth seem to breathe in the same rhythm. The sleeping prophet called this instant the touch of the spheres. He said it would be as if all truths, from all ages, met in a single point of light. And that is what is beginning to happen. The ancient prophecies, the visions of the wise, the dreams of the mystics, everything is beginning to align in a single melody. Each culture has called this time by a different name: the new dawn, the return of the inner Christ, the golden age, the awakening of the inner sun. But they all spoke of the same event, the return of consciousness to its own center. On the invisible plane, convergence is an explosion of memory. Souls remember who they were, where they came from, and why they chose to be born in this cycle. Cayce said that spirit never forgets its purpose, it only sleeps in it. Now, that purpose awakens. People in every corner of the world are beginning to receive the same inner impulses, the same intuitions, the same dreams. It is as if an invisible network is uniting hearts separated by oceans. It is planetary consciousness stitching itself together, stitch by stitch, within a field of light. But convergence doesn't come without pain. When the truth approaches, everything that is shadow tries to resist. That's why the chaos intensifies. The old system tries to survive, even knowing that the new one is already alive. Cayce said that the shadows scream when they realize that the day has dawned. Humanity feels this. There is fear, confusion, exhaustion, but behind it all, there is a growing clarity. Each crisis, each loss, each rupture is revealing a fragment of the great truth. Nothing was in vain. Everything served the awakening. Those who hear the call now are those who can see the invisible even amidst the storm. They are the souls who do not let themselves be carried away by the waves of fear. They understand that collapse is not destruction, it is birth. The world is not ending, it is being born. Cayce said that man will see the sky split, but he will find that the tear is within himself. That's it. The great division is not external, it is internal, between the old self and the true self. And when the veil is completely torn, the spirit will speak without words. And at that point, the earth ceases to be merely a planet and becomes a temple. The ground vibrates as if it has remembered that it is sacred. The waters shine like mirrors of the soul. The air seems lighter and time bends into instants of eternity. The convergence of revelations is not the end of prophecies. It is the beginning of a consciousness that no longer needs them. The human being becomes the message itself. The prophet awakens in each one and silence becomes sacred again. Cayce knew this. That is why his last words were, "When man hears himself, he will hear the universe." The judgment Cayce described was never a cosmic court. It was a memory. The true judgment is the moment when the soul looks at itself without fear. When all masks fall, what remains is what has always been eternal. Prepared souls are those who did not flee from the mirror, who allowed the light to pass through them, even if it stripped them of everything that was safe. They are the ones who understood that fire purifies, but does not destroy. Fire only returns the essence to its original form, and that essence is pure light. Inner revelation begins as a whisper, a silent presence that grows in the chest until it becomes clarity. Many call it the voice of the spirit, others intuition, others simply peace. But it is the same phenomenon, consciousness remembering its origin. Cayce said that the eyes will open not to see the future, but to see the real. And when the soul sees the real, it understands that it was never separate from the divine. All suffering, all searching, all fear were paths to this remembrance. Judgment is, in fact, the reunion with love. These prepared souls don't live above the clouds. They live among us. They walk discreetly, but their presence changes the atmosphere. They don't speak much, but where they go, the air calms. They are like antennas of light connecting heaven to earth, and when they meet, something happens. The field of the new humanity pulsates more strongly. Cayce said that a handful of pure hearts will suffice to sustain the new cycle. They are already here. They are not chosen by destiny but by vibration. They chose to serve the light when no one else remembered it. The final revelation is not about prophecies, but about presence. What is to come is not a spectacular event, but a silent shift in the human perspective. The awakening will not be televised because it happens within each one of us. One day, suddenly, humanity will awaken and realize that the world has changed, not because something happened, but because something dissolved within it. Fear will have lost its meaning, and love finally will be the common language among all beings. When Cayce spoke of this time, he called it the return of the One. He knew that humanity would go through darkness and doubt, but he also knew that, in the end, light would triumph. And now that light rises silently, not in the heavens, but in hearts, it is the birth of true revelation, the kind that needs no words to be felt. The prophecy is fulfilled when humankind understands that it is the miracle itself. The judgment is over. Love has won. and the new world begins the instant each one decides to remember. There comes a moment when the sky ceases to be above and begins to pulsate within. It is the moment when the boundaries between the human and the divine dissolve like mist in the sun. Cayce said that when that time comes, men will walk upon the earth as one walks upon his own heart. And it is precisely this feeling that begins to emerge. The planet vibrates at a different note. The colors seem more vivid. Silence becomes a message, and even pain gains meaning. Judgment is over, and in its place, recognition is born. Everything I've experienced has served to remind me who I am. The new earth is not a place. It is a state of presence. There are no thrones, no temples, no dogmas. The sacred has returned to dwell in simple things, in the forgiving gaze, in the welcoming gesture, in the healing laughter. Cayce said that the spirit hides in the everyday, waiting to be recognized. Now it is seen. The ancients sought paradise in distant stars, but paradise has always been here, waiting for humankind to awaken enough to perceive it. The prophecy has been fulfilled, not as a spectacle in the sky, but as a sunrise within the soul. In this new cycle, time is not measured in hours but in vibrations. Life becomes a constant dialogue with the invisible. Man and earth converse through synchronicities, dreams, and signs. The wind becomes a messenger again. The waters sing again. Cayce said that when man hears the earth, he will hear God. This is the miracle that begins to happen now. Communion. The human species ceases to be a visitor and becomes a guardian. The heart, once divided, now beats in unison with the cosmos. But the new doesn't arrive with fanfare. It spreads silently like the scent of a flower at dawn. Each person awakens without realizing the exact moment. They only feel that something has changed. Fear loses its flavor, power loses its allure, and love begins to guide actions. Cayce said that the world will be saved by small acts of invisible courage. And that's how it happens. The new heaven descends into the earth, and humanity becomes its own temple. The invisible becomes natural again. Then the sleeping prophet awakens in each of us. The voice that once came from outside now echoes from within. Remember yourself, for you are the gateway. The cycle is complete, and time bows before consciousness. The earth breathes a sigh of relief. The fire that once burned now warms. The pain that once divided now unites. Judgment has ended, and in its place flourishes the memory of love. Heaven is no longer a promise. It is a presence. Cayce said that at the end of all visions, only one truth would remain. Everything is one. And when this understanding takes hold, the prophecy dissolves, because there is nothing left to predict. There is only the eternal present. The new time is not what is to come. It is what already vibrates within those who awaken. Now, humanity understands that the apocalypse was never destruction, but revelation. The veil has fallen, and what was hidden was always the divine itself within each one. The final revelation is simple, almost childlike. It is the recognition that love is the force that moves the worlds. Cayce called it the one law. Everything that resists it breaks. Everything that surrenders to it flourishes. When love becomes the dominant frequency, the entire universe responds. The earth vibrates in harmony, the heavens open, and the collective consciousness expands like a boundless field of light. The judgment was merely the process of purifying the gaze to see this. Now humanity looks to the horizon and sees the reflection of infinity in its own eyes. The prophecy ends where self-knowledge begins. Cayce said that the kingdom will come when man knows how to love like God. And that is what is beginning to happen. Ancient souls are reuniting not in temples but in glances. They recognize each other by the brilliance, the vibration, the silence they share. And together, they sustain the frequency of the new earth. The planet ascends not to the heavens but to consciousness. In the final glimpse, the sleeping prophet smiles. He does not speak. He only observes. Because now humanity speaks for him. What was seed has blossomed. What was promise has become presence. And the great revelation is this. The Spirit has always been here, waiting for us to open our eyes. The light didn't come from outside. It was always what we are. The fire of judgment burned away the fear, and on the other side, love was born. The new cycle begins not tomorrow but now, the instant you remember to feel. If you felt this resonate within you, write it in the comments. Prophecy. Subscribe to the channel and share with those you love.